Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, we just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you all for watching. We truly appreciate your support. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, it's totally free, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest stories. Now, with all that said, let's jump straight into the story.
The barred gates of Cranbrook Asylum loomed like jagged teeth against the bruised twilight. Rain lashed against the windshield of Eleanor's beat-up Jeep, blurring the already menacing silhouette. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. 3 a.m. Tonight was the night. Eleanor was a paranormal investigator, a glorified ghost hunter to some, but to her, a seeker of truth in the spaces where logic failed. Cranbrook, abandoned for 30 years after a series of incidents, was her Everest. Locals whispered of the 3 a.m. walkers, the lingering spirits of patients reliving their torment in the dead of night. She killed the engine, the silence that descended was thick and suffocating. The air tasted of decay and regret. Armed with an EMF meter, a voice recorder, and a healthy dose of morbid curiosity masking a quivering fear, Eleanor hoisted her backpack and sloshed through the puddles towards the rusted gates. A bolt cutter, surprisingly effective despite the years of neglect, made short work of the lock. Cranbrook was a cathedral of madness. Peeling paint draped from the walls like decaying skin, revealing layers of cracked plaster and the ghostly echoes of screams. The air inside was colder, heavier than the rain-soaked night. The stench of disinfectant, old and curdled, hung heavy in the air, a bitter reminder of failed order. Eleanor started in the East Wing, once the acute ward. Here, she imagined, the most desperate cases were housed. Restraints, rusted and stained a grim brown, still dangled from the beds. The air crackled with static. Her EMF meter flickered erratically. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling despite her best efforts. "Is anyone there? I'm here to listen." Silence. Only the rhythmic dripping of water, each drop a tiny hammer blow against her courage. She moved on, documenting everything with her camera. The hydrotherapy room, the padded cells, the operating theater with its daunting array of archaic instruments. Each room whispered a story of suffering, a fragment of a broken mind. As the clock ticked closer to the dreaded hour, Eleanor found herself in the recreation hall, a vast, echoing space. Here, she imagined, patients had once attempted to find solace, to rediscover a sliver of normalcy. A faded mural of a smiling sun peeked out from beneath layers of grime, a cruel joke in this house of shadows. 2:55 a.m. Eleanor's heart hammered against her ribs. The air grew colder, a bone-chilling draft snaking through the room. The EMF meter was screaming. 2:57 a.m. She checked her recorder, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. 2:58 a.m. A distant, mournful groan echoed through the halls. Not the wind. Something else. 2:59 a.m. A shuffling sound coming from the far end of the hall. Eleanor froze, every muscle tense. 3 a.m. The shuffling grew louder, closer. Eleanor switched on her flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. And there, in the flickering light, they were. Figures. Gaunt, spectral shapes shuffling down the hall. Some were in tattered hospital gowns, others in the remnants of street clothes. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes vacant. They moaned, a chorus of despair that crawled under Eleanor's skin. But it wasn't the spectral forms themselves that chilled her to the bone. It was their actions. They weren't phantoms replaying a past trauma. They were functional. One shuffled to a dusty chess set and meticulously arranged the pieces. Another began to sweep the floor with a frayed broom, his movements slow and deliberate. A third sat on a tattered armchair, quietly humming a tuneless melody while rocking back and forth. They were the routines, the habits, the last vestiges of sanity clung to even in the depths of their madness. They were reliving not a specific event, but the mundane, repetitive reality of their abandoned lives. Then one of them turned, his hollow eyes fixing on Eleanor. He raised a skeletal hand, beckoning her closer. Terror seized her. She wanted to run, to scream, but her feet were rooted to the spot. The figure shuffled closer, his breath ragged and cold. "We've been waiting," he croaked, his voice raspy with disuse. She promised she'd come back." Eleanor stammered, Who promised?" The figure's gaze flickered to the mural of the smiling sun. "The doctor. She said she'd make us better. She lied." He reached out, his icy fingers brushing her cheek. Eleanor flinched, the touch sending a jolt of pure horror through her. She saw something in his eyes then, a flicker of knowing, of desperate hope mingled with utter despair. "Don't leave us," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Please, don't leave us. Eleanor found her voice, a choked sob escaping her lips. I can't help you, she stammered. I'm sorry. She tore herself free, stumbling backwards. The figures continued their routines, oblivious to her departure. The man with the chess set made a move. The sweeper continued his endless task. The Hummer rocked on. She fled through the corridors, the flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The hallways seemed to twist and narrow, stretching impossibly long. The exits had vanished. Panic clawed at her chest. Then she noticed it, the walls. They weren't just grimy. They were covered in writing, hundreds of names scratched into the plaster with fingernails, pens, whatever could leave a mark. And in the center, over and over again, her name, Eleanor. The air thickened, the pressure unbearable. Her ears rang. The hallway narrowed further until she could barely squeeze through. On instinct, she ducked into a room, an office by the look of the rotting furniture. A decrepit file cabinet groaned as she yanked it open. Inside, damp and crumbling files. She grabbed one at random and gasped. It was her file. Subject Eleanor Gray. Admitted, March 12, 1994. Diagnosis, delusional disorder. Claims of paranormal experience. Believes she is a ghost hunter. She staggered back, the words swimming in her vision. Another file, marked with a faded red tab, read, Dr. Lydia Gray, Chief Psychiatrist. Terminated, March 13, 1994. Incident resulted in facility shutdown. Her breath hitched. Lydia Gray. Her mother. Suddenly, memories, not hers but implanted, flickered through her mind like broken film. A little girl playing in a doctor's office. A lullaby. Screams at night. Her mother whispering, "You'll understand one day. You'll come back." She fell to her knees, the truth crashing down like thunder. Eleanor wasn't just investigating Cranbrook. She had lived here. She was one of them. The walkers weren't ghosts. They were echoes of broken minds. Eleanor had escaped, or been released, but something in her never left. Her identity had been reconstructed, reinvented to shield her from the trauma. The paranormal investigator was a persona, a defense mechanism. And now she was back. The mural of the smiling sun loomed in her mind. Her mother's voice whispered again. "You promised you'd come back." She stumbled out of the office, back into the recreation hall. The figures paused. One by one they turned to her. The man with the broom handed it to her. The chess player gestured toward an empty chair. The Hummer began to sing louder, the melody oddly familiar. Eleanor took the broom. She began to sweep. Outside the rain stopped. The wind died. The night fell silent. And the gates of Cranbrook slowly creaked shut. Inside, the walkers resumed their routines. The cycle complete. Until the next visitor. Until the next return.
Ready for spine-chilling tales that will haunt your thoughts? Subscribe to Forgotten Storyteller for eerie narrations, unsettling mysteries, and haunting stories you won't forget. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Join us, if you dare,